Welcome in, folks. Doing a little bit of Sunday morning Elite here. Forgot my headphones. Let me get those on real quick. A very long distance rescue. We got a call on the Rat Chat last night for a lad that was about 43,000 light years from the nearest rats. All of us were out on distant worlds, so essentially from the edge of Marisomnia all the way over to somewhere in the conduit. And two of us got dispatched and headed out to help the guy out. So now I'm on the trip back, and although none of this bio is terribly valuable, it did give me a reason to get out of the ship, which I haven't had in a minute. I've been hauling butt. But we did manage to get the guy, both of us managed to get out of the hole he was in. He was, let me get these plants out of the way and I'll show you where he was. It's an intriguing place. Also, for anybody wondering if they have indeed seemingly fixed the Caspian landing profile, I did get down on this planet, and it wasn't too awful much trouble. I mean, as you can see looking around, there's not a hell of a lot of places to land. But I did manage to get down without a ton of fuss, so I would say they've done God's work on that landing profile, and I'm okay with that. I actually like that ship. I was just a little perturbed by its landing characteristics, because I do like to do exobio. And if you're going to be out exploring and rat on the side, it's really hard to beat that ship. Of course, now that I look at it, that's kind of a sus landing. I've heard of 3 points on a plane, but 1 point on a plane? I guess that front strut's kind of touching just a touch. A skosh, if you will. Oh, nope, I can see air. It's not touching at all. Huh. Are any of them actually touching? What did I land on? I landed on like 1.5 feet of rock. Quite the balancing act. Props to the Caspian for that. I don't know that I would have managed it nearly as well. It's all the landing computer. I was hoping I could get that one. I guess one of those will do. Oh, you know what? I didn't share the stream. I should do that. But yeah, it was a fun rescue. We had a blast. And honestly, some of the most fun I've had in Elite in a while. There we go. And I'm going to just pull Buddy up. There we go. Now I got all my ducks in a row, I think. Oh, what a trip, though. He had managed to get himself out between two of the arms, the outer two arms, in fact, and was all the way at, like, plus 1,000 something. He was way up in the attic. And there was just nowhere to go. Like, it would have... I think the way he got there is the only way to get there. It was also all unexplored, unreported to EDSM, so we couldn't even effectively spanch plot our way over there. I plotted with Galaxy Plotter to a spot like 480 some light years below him, and that was the closest I could get Spanch to give me a route to. And even from there were like my jump options in a Caspian with plenty of premium synthesis on board were fairly limited. It was impressive that we got to them at all, to be honest. I never did get into the system. The other rat beat me there, which is fine. He's actually the drilled rat. I was going to have him do it for the, just so he'd do the paperwork and stuff anyway, since I'm not a full rat, just a ratling. And he beat me there by a little bit, so I didn't bother climbing into that abyss, because I knew it would be trouble getting out. He had a terrible time himself, the other rat that is. Took him about another hour and a half to plot his way back down towards the galactic disk so that he could plot a way out of there. What a trip, though. This guy, he certainly knows how to pick 'em. Did make me wonder, though, because it's a similar situation to Rainbow's End, right? Only this was up top instead of down below. But it made me wonder how many folks we're going to see run out of fuel trying to get to Rainbow's End. Because it's certainly exactly the kind of situation, pretty sparse stars, people running lean on fuel, trying to make long jumps. It's exactly the way people get into trouble with that, so. If and when I get another alt, well, if and when I get another alt, it'll be a starter zone fuel rat, and I'll just never advance it. But if, God forbid, I end up with a 4th account, I think it will probably get posted up in a Mandalay, just sitting on Rainbow's End for that exact purpose, depending on how many calls we start seeing come in for that. Welcome in, Rob. Yeah, I really... And that case we did last night really highlighted it, because it's a very similar situation. And on our way out there, that's all I kept thinking was how many... this guy was out exploring, obviously. He was having a good time and just kind of chancing it, but he was up in absolute no man's land. But the reason we don't see more rescues like that is people, unless they don't know any better, don't generally go up into those regions. And now we've plumped a station down that gives people a reason to go there, whether they're equipped and prepared to do it or not. So, unfortunately, I think we will see rescues in the neighborhood of Rainbow's End go up. It's been a pretty quiet morning over in the Rat Chat. Had a PlayStation rescue or two and a couple of bubble runs. Which honestly, if you position yourself in the bubble correctly, in something like a Mandalay, you're pretty much always 1 or 2 jumps from those folks, so those were all quick. All told, we spent like 5.5 hours on that guy last night, though. It was 4 of us. We ended up in a Discord call because text chat just wasn't cutting it. There was me and another rat doing the run, and then we had 2 guys doing back-end support, just fluffing around their galaxy maps, trying to figure out, once we got over in that neighborhood, how the hell we were going to get to this guy. But I guess I've got the battery. I can pull that up. Let's see. I still have the system bookmarked. It was a doozy. Yeah, so this was the system that this guy found himself stuck in. I'm just going to back way out here so you can see. And of course, I was over there with the DW fleet. Which one is the DW? It's got to be that yellow one over there. So I was over there. It was about 43,000 light years. But right up here in the very top edge of the conduit, between these 2 arms, and then at positive 1,000 in the plane. And you can see, I mean, I'm set on realistic mode. There ain't a star to be had. Like, that's the nearest star, and it's 86 light years. But, where do you go from there? Let's just go down. Straight down. It was an absolute mess of a rescue once we got over there. And I'm just kind of slow plotting my way back now. I was going to spanch jump it back, But honestly, I'm tired of spanch jumping. It's a lot of clicking in and out of the game, a lot of copying and pasting, and I discovered I plotted some of it that way, and then I decided I was going to stop and hit a DSSA carrier for repair, even though I was pretty tip top anyway. I had run into 2 exclusion zones on my way over to that guy. One of them because I crashed. It wasn't exactly my fault. The other one was 100% my fault. But my power plant was down to 97, and I needed to restock heat sinks. I said, well, why waste the mats? I was like 10 jumps from a DSSA carrier, so I popped over and did that. And then on a whim, I in-game plotted my way back over to that helium-rich voxel I was working a while back, and found, even though it's 19,000 light years and some change, the in-game plotter actually handled it, which is a bit of a rarity in itself. Usually anything over 10 or 12 and it starts not cooperating very well. But it did manage to plot it, so I said, hell, I'll work that direction. If I make it today, which I probably won't, it's 200 some odd jumps. And I am exploring as I go, so I'll probably realistically make it through 30 or 40. And then once they drop the next Distant Worlds waypoint, I'll probably just spanch plot to that and start working my way that way. Or I might do it in fits and spurts, I don't know. The trouble with spanch plotting is it doesn't take you anywhere new. It relies on reported systems, which means everything you've gone through, at least partially, the main star at any rate, has been discovered. So it's not great for exploration. It's perfectly acceptable for traveling. But I guess it's okay if you do like a mix of it, you know, cover 5,000 or 6,000 light years and then jump out and do game plotting for a little bit. But I still have 35 to 40,000 light years to cover, so I will be doing some of it as a spanch plot. Probably Galaxy Plotter. I very much like that. I especially like it running through Exploration Buddy. Those Fungoida were a lot farther away than I thought they were. But given the difficulty to land on this planet, and the equal difficulty I suspect in driving an SRV, I think this is the only way I'm going to get over there to it. Before I go any farther, yes, I have all 3 energy cells. I might actually need them. So how you doing, Rob? Just lurking over there? What have you been up to, man? I feel like I've been doing a lot of jumping and exploration. I've kind of made the decision I am not sticking with the Distant Worlds fleet from here on out, which has been very freeing, to be honest. I was enjoying it from the start, but honestly, the POIs haven't been super great. Here's my rat buddy. That was the guy that made the actual rescue last night. But the POIs haven't been great, and honestly, I don't like the time pressure aspect of it. I really don't. I don't always want to be running somewhere with a goal. I kind of like a loose goal when I'm exploring. You know, pick a point that doesn't matter and just work my way to it and see what I bump into. I mean, here in this system I'm in, I found a really nice landable with rings. I mean, it didn't have an atmosphere. It was still a ringed landable, and that was fun. I went down, took a picture, and that kind of thing. But if you're cruising along trying to keep a schedule, that's the kind of stuff you stop doing, and that takes all the fun out of it. So I've decided I'm just ain't gonna do it no more. I've also kind of conned Tranquila and Delta into a friendly Delta going to, because we all participated in the community goal at Rainbow's End. But I've managed to con both of them into agreeing not to sell any data until we've returned to the bubble, and whoever makes the most on their data wins. Still badgering poor Felicity, huh? Yeah, that's one way to do it. Trying to think of what would be the fastest way to get any particular thing to elite. I have to imagine trade is the easiest for a new player. Because ExoBio takes forever. You make a shitload of money, but it's just... I just recently made elite in ExoBio on this account. But trade is pretty straightforward. You can get a T9 without too much fuss, and subsequently a Panther. And if you're doing like Inara trade runs, the profit stacks up pretty quick. So I would think doing trade runs, awful as that sounds, is probably the fastest way to unlock Shindes. I still... have I unlocked? Yeah, I just recently unlocked it on my alt. And it was... it was, I think, trade for me. Of course, I've been using that account to run colony materials too, so that's helped. Not that the profits are great, and that is, you know, what it relies on. Well, that's all but the bacteria for this planet. I'm not super interested in the bacteria. I have decided I'm going to start filling out my codex entries. That is one pretty neat feature of what is going on here? Oh, I had inadvertently paused my own stream at some point, so the preview was looking like it was frozen. One neat feature of Observatory Core with the Bio Insights is you get these little blue checker marks that will say it's a possible new codex entry for yourself, or a square one if it's, obviously I don't have any because most of them have been found, but square if it's like a new galactic entry maybe. And you don't have to sample the plant to get the codex entry, you just have to scan it. And I am interested in filling out my codex, but obviously I don't want to go scanning each and every bacteria I find. It's just too much aggravation. But it's not all that much trouble to take, say, the fighter out of a Caspian and hit each of them with a comp scanner once to clear the codex entry. So that's kind of been my go-to, and I'm still not, you know, like flying to a planet just to get the one bacteria. But a case like this, where I already came down to get another plant, since I'm in the neighborhood, yeah, sure, I'll go hunt that one down and pop it with the comp scanner and get the codex hit for it. Yeah, I don't... I see. I know when you said that, I was thinking, I don't think that'll cut it. Yeah, jumping all the way there and honking with everything discovered really doesn't net you nearly as much as it may have. Even out here, like, I'm going to struggle to make arcs this week because I'm not turning anything in. And I'm not sure how the game calculates exploration arcs, but I think it does it based mainly on turn-in, because I haven't gotten hardly any arcs, and I've covered, you know, probably 56 to 60,000 odd light years since Thursday, and I've done plenty of scanning and landing, so, but I've only got like less than half my weekly arcs allowance made. And normally I've, you know, first session after Thursday rolls over, I've got it knocked out. So I might struggle a bit at that this week. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, I'm just falling down a mountain. I'm just going slow, you know. Nice, lazy stream. I am unfortunately back on overtime starting Wednesday, which is gonna seriously cut into my gaming time. But it'll also, in all likelihood, provide me with the funding to replace this janky throttle, so the good with the bad, I suppose. We will still have a stable Sunday stream. At least one on Sunday. I may change the time. I might move it up to 5 o'clock or something. Just because working that many hours, I'm gonna need to sleep a little more reliably. It's one thing to stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. and then go do a easy 8-hour day in 10 miles. It's quite another to get up and do a 12-hour day in 16 to 20 miles. Running all over town. It's a different kettle of fish. But I will for sure have Sundays at a stable opportunity. I will probably throw up a surprise stream on whichever day happens to be my day off that week. Which will rotate, so it's not going to be something I can put up a great schedule for. It's easy enough to keep track of. If it's Monday one week, the next week will be Tuesday, and then Thursday the following week, and so on. But as far as scheduling it, that doesn't work very well. Oh yeah, no, I get it, man. You're right. Those first couple mil are tough on a new account. I'm trying to remember how I did it. Well, I know how I did it. What I was, I had enough to get a T11, and we were still doing. No, that's not right. How did I do it? I used the Bromellite mining CG before Distant Worlds left, and I made a couple of 100 million for my alt, but I don't remember how, because I didn't buy her a T11. She bought her T11 for credits. I think. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Maybe I just bought it with ARX on that account too. Tranquila! Hey, what's up? Doing a surprise early Sunday stream. On my way back from that absolute bonkers rescue. Well, here's where I am. So, not over there where I need to be, you know. Distant Worlds is hanging out over here. I was actually right about here when I left for that rescue last night. And the rescue took me right about here. Oh yeah, the bookmark's still there. This guy found himself in such a position. I still don't know how he got there, because we had trouble getting there. Plus 1,000 in the plane, so up in the attic between two arms, and there's just nothing there. And I mean nothing. Go up, you go down. I'm in realistic mode, and you can see there just ain't stars out there. Yeah, I get around, Rob. I put in about a solid 50,000 light years last night in about 5 hours. By the time I get back to the Distant Worlds fleet, it'll be about 90,000 light years round trip. Not for the faint of heart. Not necessarily, Trink. I was only honking on the way through. We don't really... On an active rescue, you don't have time to FSS. You're just, you know, burning stars, so... I am going to slow down and look around a bit on the way back. But I don't... I mean, it's still going to be the same total playtime. I did stop at a DSSA carrier and repair. I didn't repaint though, and you saw the screenshot I threw up in Discord. This paint is getting rough. It was at about 18% when I stopped. So I'm going to leave it that way. I'm not going to repaint it. It really is about as crazy as where they put the station in the opposite direction. It's in the top of the plane instead of the bottom. And we were discussing in Rat Chat last night how we think calls are probably going to go up because of that. Because this guy was up exploring in, you know, the wild northwest there just because he wanted to. But the vast majority of people don't go up that high in the plane or that low in the plane. They don't do those, you know, those oddball... Dog, go lay down, please. Yes, you. You're being mischievous. They don't go to those oddball places because there's no reason to, and now we've put a station there and given them a reason. And some of them just are going to get stuck. I mean, this guy, he even knew what he was doing. He was out there, he was void plotting, he had injection materials, and he was intentionally running lean on fuel so that he could make the jumps. So, like, he went there with a plan. He just didn't realize before he jumped into this system that he was going to be below 10% fuel, and even though there was a white dwarf in that system, he couldn't supercharge and get anywhere because of the fuel limitation. So, I mean, if an experienced person can get stuck up there, and we had a terrible time. I never did get to the system he was in. Closest I got was, I think, grand total, I think, was like 380 some light years. The other rat is the one that ended up making it to where he was. But, you know, if somebody that knows what they're doing can get stuck up there, there's going to be plenty of players that come out exploring, just, you know, sticking to the band in the center of the galactic disk and want to go down to Rainbow's End because, you know, they're here and it's a landmark location and they're going to get stuck. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, Rob. Honestly, depending on what you're doing, there's you know, there's guys out there that are real into BGS, and they probably don't leave, for the most part, a little 10 light year area around the system they work in. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, this guy didn't run out of fuel because he didn't have enough tanks. He was... And as a bubble player, you may not do a whole lot of this, but your jump range is also dependent on fuel in your tank. So when you come over and look on your ship at the current and unladen is also accounting for fuel burned. So in order to get that 83.05 out of my Caspian, I would have to dump all my cargo and have like 6.8 tons of fuel exactly in my fuel tank. So just enough fuel for the jump. So sometimes distance explorers, what they'll do is they'll run their fuel tank down intentionally in order to increase their jump range to make, you know, a single long distance jump.
Deployment sequence initial. All clear, sir.
Sometimes they do make it more convenient. I've got an extra 64-ton tank on that Caspian. But that's partly because I built it out to be a rat ship also. The part of ratting that interested me when I joined was long-range rescues, which is exactly what we did last night. And really, the best way to do those is to already be out in the middle of nowhere when the call comes in. Because odds are, that in itself will put you closer to where you're going than being in the bubble or colonia, either one. Ideally, I guess if you really were into it, you would have an alt account with a Caspian and just leave it parked at Sag A. That would be about as central a place as you could stage. But I had an extra size 6 slot on this thing, and I stuffed a fuel tank in it for want of anything else. And there's my bacteria. Oh, stop it. Man, this thing's touchy after flying that Caspian for so long. Get on there. Stay. Good boy. Yeah, I'm not going to sample that for the money. I just wanted the codex it. Not that I'm working this sector right now. I was actually trying to do a complete Codex run on Mare Somnia, but got rudely interrupted. Yeah, I would imagine so. In the aviation industry, they certainly encourage having a little reserve and fuel for your alternate. Some of these guys don't. These guys want to do the equivalent of a transatlantic with just enough vapor to get there. Oh, I would absolutely love it, Trank, if they gave us a exo vehicle of any kind. Doesn't even have to be a fighter. That would be cool. Honestly, what would have been perfect is if they had not fixed the Caspian landing and instead given us an exobio fighter that could land on a planet. That would be the best. Ah, mi amigo, it's going. I'm coming back from that rescue. What a ride. How goes the WoW? I see it's grabbed your attention with a vengeance. I am just slow plotting my way back out of here. Going nowhere in particular. Some people would say, I mean, it is a drug, right? Any video game is technically a drug. It produces all the right chemicals in your brain that make you happy. That's why you keep playing them. And for anybody wondering, I don't have the camera on because I've backlit. I've got a curtain open, so it just wasn't worth the fight today. I turned it off. Let's see what's next on the list here. I did have a couple more. Pete, welcome in, sir. I do have a couple more finds here I could go hunt down. None of them particularly valuable, so I don't think I'm going to waste the time on it right now. There may come another day that I am in this region that I so desire to do it, but today ain't that day. So let's go ahead and jump on. Oh, what do you guys think? Do you think, because right now I'm headed in-game plotted for my helium-rich voxel, and it's quite a haul. It's, I should say I was headed for that voxel. Clearly I borked it, but should I continue heading that way? Or should I just neutron plot my way back to the DW fleet and continue what I was doing in Mare Somnia? Because it is completely irrelevant to me. Either way, I'll be exploring a bit as I go, letting me find new things versus just flying through other people's discoveries. It's a process, bud. I would have to remember. It's somewhere under account settings. It's your display username. Absolute pain in the ass, though. It doesn't really matter to me, Trank. I'm flying, so I'm happy either way. And now that I've landed on a planet and got a breath of fresh dirt in my shoes, I'm okay doing either one, honestly. I guess an alternative would be I could spanch plot my way back to that helium voxel and work that helium voxel until it's time to rejoin the fleet, and then spanch plot my way back over there. Honestly, that sequence of events, that appeals to me. I think that's what I'll do. So let me clear the galaxy route. And we'll put this one in. Let's not hit that neutron star. That would be ideal. Just hold up there. So I want to go to, let's say 1. I know that's not the right one, but are you going to tell me it's not in there? That is what you're going to tell me. Why? Oh, I swear, if you leave Elite Dangerous Exploration Buddy open too long, it just forgets how to connect to Spanch. I don't know why that is. Something to do with, like, the API refresh, I assume. Oh, what's your idea for how you will explore then? And I agree. The time constraint is annoying me thoroughly. That's kind of why I'm not at all bothered by my current course of events. It's part of the reason I took that rat run last night. It just seemed to me that the best way to get out and enjoy my time was to just go for that run and then see where it led me. Ah, there he is. What a lad. Waiting on ED Buddy to get its head out of its collective rear end here. Let's see if that does what it's supposed to. Haha! It did. Lazy exploration. Yeah, honestly, the most fun I've had exploring in a while was running that voxel. Which is part of the reason I'm headed back there. I just want to sink my teeth back into that again. Come on, buddy. Get with it here. Thank you. Alright, let's see if it knows where I'm trying to go now. Look at that. It's almost like I've been there before. And generate route. Honestly, this shouldn't be more than about 50 jumps to get over there. Either way, I'm going to need to be supercharged, so let's go ahead and get that. Oh, it seems to have figured it out.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
A voxel is how the game is divided, at least out in space. So, if you, since I have to throw a page, so you've got the sector name in front here on your addresses, and then this 3-letter code is the voxel. So this voxel will be WI-A, and then it gets a mask code, and then an identifier within that mask code. So this will be the D mask code segment 1-24. And essentially, it's a galactic address. So if I take a look here at Elite Dangerous Journal Processor, it does a really good job of visualizing this. This is the Voxel Explorer. So that's the voxel I'm currently in. And as you go through the mask codes, they start at H, that's the biggest. And that is, there's one of them per sector, and it's the same size as the sector. It's 1280 light years cubed. And then you get within that H 4 Gs, within each G 16 Fs, and so on and so on. It's quite the rabbit hole. But essentially, it is the way Stellar Forge breaks things down, because it doesn't generate... Oh shit, I didn't mean to close that. It doesn't generate the entire galaxy at once, obviously. 400 billion stars, it couldn't manage that if it wanted to. So what it has instead is a list of code addresses that are predetermined with parameters, and when the player gets near or jumps into them, it loads that system. Yeah, it's essentially the zone system for the game engine. If you're in our Discord and you want to read some more about that, I've got a paper in there that explains it fairly well. And then, of course, if you check out Arcanic, he has plenty of explanations on voxels. I think he's even got a couple of shorts that kind of go over how that gets handled. Probably more competently than I'll ever explain it, but that's the notion, sir. But the reason it's important is those, you know, those voxels. So like that D voxel, everything that follows, you know, the one I'm going to, like it's a system set of like 170 odd systems within that voxel that all are going to share similar generation criteria. Not exact, but you know, within the same set of parameters. And that one in particular that I'm headed to is a helium-rich voxel. So every system within that voxel is helium-rich, and it includes quite a bit more interesting finds. So if you're looking for something specific, like you want to hunt Earthlikes or something like that, and you find a system that has a lot of Earthlikes, then it's worth, you know, exploring that voxel, because odds are other systems within it are going to also spawn Earthlikes, or atmospheric landables, or, you know, terraformables, whatever it is you're looking for. They're all going to share traits within a voxel.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
No, that is 100% fair, Rob. I get that wholeheartedly. Because I'm an explorer, I don't mind doing it. I get what you're saying, but it does... I find in this game it doesn't take the fun out of it, because there's so many systems. I mean, there's 400 billion systems and so many things to, you know, just to kind of look at, that even knowing how it all works in the background doesn't ruin it for me. And it does help me find some things I'm looking for. I mean, it's not a guarantee. But since I am going through this system, when I get there, I am in fact going to go to one of the crystalline shards I discovered and try to flak cannon mine it, because I've been wondering about that. It's going to take 52 jumps to get back to... We just burn hard and get over there, and then we can see if that mining method still works, because I'm curious. I know they completely broke it for the brain trees, but I really think it'll still work on crystalline shards. And I've never tried it, mostly because there aren't any near the bubble. The nearest crystalline shard to the bubble is down in Sanguinius Rim, and it's like 4,200 light years out.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
And let's be honest, who's going to fly that far with a flak cannon and collector limpets strapped to their ship? I know the guys in Rat Chat last night were giving me an absolute ribbing because I flew all the way across the galaxy with a flak cannon on the roof of my Caspian, collector limpets on my Caspian, and a ton of Lavian brandy in my cargo hold. And I was just having a good old giggle about it, because that's the kind of wacky shit I'll do on a whim. I did realize, though, last night I did the math, and I will be over 300,000 light years on Distant Worlds 3 by the time I get back to the fleet. Okay, Rob. Yeah, no, that's fair, Rob. I get that too. I certainly do that with some games. I don't do it all the time with Elite. Obviously, sometimes I'll just plot her out and go and explore and be lazy.
Warning.
kind of manipulating it. Right, we're taking the known presence of neutron stars and we're asking a third-party program to plot us the most efficient way to travel between them. In a way far better than the in-game plotter does. So in a way, what I'm doing right now is kind of min-maxing one of those systems, but... No, I get it. I did that with Minecraft. It's like people that play RuneScape and do the the tick flipping or whatever they call it, prayer flicking. There we go, or tick manipulation. It's a whole level of tism I just don't quite possess. But I can see how being in the aviation industry would do that. My background, believe it or not, is in aviation security. I'm actually ACE security certified, but I don't have time for all that, to be honest. TSA is such a pain in the ass. And it seems like nobody in that industry wants to actually do what logically needs done in order to make everything work the way we say it does on paper, so... I gave it all up and traded it in for a mail truck. Couldn't be happier. Guess I should be honking. I don't remember if I honked the last couple systems. Yeah, poor old Will over there. He's a RuneScaper with a deep knowledge and the tism to match. Not I, sir. I'm quite happy to go chop wood on an Iron Man account and be happy that I finally did Temperos and... What was the other one? That's how you know it's been too long since I played RuneScape. I can't remember the other boss, and it's the one we beat. Help me out here, bud. Winter Todd. There we go. That was what I was trying to think of. Whew. Losing what marbles I got left. H60, huh? It's a helicopter, isn't it? If I remember right. I admit, I'm more up on my commercial passenger craft than I am other things. Ah, yeah, I thought it was a military chopper. But that's how I've always played WoW when I did. I never understood the people that jumped in and just skipped straight to the new expansion. That always drove me nuts. Of course, the last time I had played WoW, realistically, was like 2008. So back when there wasn't really a whole lot of expansions and the only thing to do was the early quests. That's the way that kind of game's meant to be played, though. We occasionally had some Blackhawks come into the airport I was at. It's a commercial airport, and we have an Air Force base not far from me. But a lot of times they'd be moving equipment from one air base to another, or just moving it somewhere else, and they would park at our commercial airport on one of the private aprons, you know, with one of the, oh crap, what are they called? There's a name for them. It's a thing. You talk to them, they handle your ground services, but they're not the airport. I've been out of it too long. Can't remember the name. But they would land at our airport because we had hotels and stuff within, you know, reasonable shuttle distance, and I guess it was just more convenient. I have that problem with pretty much everything. I try to jump range optimize everything I build, whether it needed it or not. I mean, I was out here running a 50 light year Kestrel, visiting green gas giants with it. which in itself was silly and kind of a treat, but it's not so bad.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
I really wish I could remember the term that I was just blanking out on.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
I gotta Google it now. I can't not know. It's gonna burn a hole clean through my brain. FBO. Good lord. That was it. Now, if I could remember what FBO stands for. I think it's Fixed Base Operator. Either way. If you're in the aviation world, you know what an FBO is. Holy shit, that was driving me nuts, though. Well, if you ever need the knowledge, you can fit a Class 5 frameshift booster, a 7 fuel scoop, and still manage to get 20 SRVs onto a Caspian. If you ever feel the need to drop a bunch of people off for some ground combat.
Frameshift drive charging.
Why do I know that? Because I got bored, and I love to play in Coriolis. It's among my favorite pastimes. And we seem to have had a lot of bubble rescues this morning. We've had like 7 cases just since I got out of bed. And they're never far out. Like this last one was 50 light years from Seoul. People really be out here just running without fuel. Sadly, no. You're limited to the 4 seats you have on the bridge here. So you can carry up to 4 people, including yourself. And you could carry multiple SRVs for each one. I was just curious how many I could squeeze into the Caspian, because it's got such generous internals.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating.
Although, practically speaking, if you were doing like a ground CZ,
Supercharged.
that would actually be a great way to do it as like a multi-crew thing, because then even if you blew up, each person would have, 4 or 5 replacement SRVs. Alright, Trank, we'll catch you later. I may still be exploring, not really sure. At some point, I'm gonna break off and help Shelly. She wanted to play some more and get some more time under her belt, and I probably won't be streaming that. She probably will be, though. I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell with Shell. But I figure one of us streaming and me trying to teach will be quite enough on my plate. But I'll be around for a little bit at least.
Frameshift drive charging.
Why is this pinned message hanging out at the bottom of my screen? That's not where that belongs. I'm just going to unpin that so it goes away.
4, 3, 2, 1.
No, I guess it wasn't actually blocking anything. I wish they would leave YouTube chat alone. It seems to have been mucked about with recently, and I don't approve. I absolutely hate it when people change things just to justify their job so they can say they improved something that worked just fine the way it was. Stop fucking with things.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
That'll be my soapbox for today. I believe I'll get down off that now before I get altitude sickness.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond.
I hate it when you just miss a supercharge and you just need to just tap it in. Graze the end of the cone one more time. Yeah, 10 jumps down, 40 to go.
Frameshift drive charging.
It's a whole lot better than last night. I started when I left to go undertake that rescue. I had 140 jumps in front of me. And it was quite a haul. Right around 3 hours, just continuous neutron jumping. I will say, looking at Exploration Buddy with my route here, for some reason it seems pretty convinced that some of the systems along my route haven't been discovered. And I'm not at all sure how that works out.
Drive operating beyond safety limits.
Hey, no worries, Rob. Happy to be the chill guy on the stream.
Frameshift drive operating beyond
If you don't watch Arcanic, he's very similar in regards to being a chill streamer. I very much enjoy watching his content. And he's also very knowledgeable about exploration in general, be it game mechanics or just, you know, the general way to go about things. He's got a whole lot of knowledge, and he's fun to watch, right? He's chasing the green gas giants, which in and of themselves are a bug, for those that don't know. Yeah, I think the real world breaks all of us right now. Me and Will online, they were having that discussion just the other day, how screwed up the world is and how miserable it is to exist in it. So, we choose fantasy. It's way more fun. Yeah, green gas giants, for anybody not in the know, are a bug in the game. They started out as just a green giant, or a gas giant bug where the colors didn't render right. It had a color picker, and for some reason, occasionally the color picker would generate a system that was outside the known... Sorry, I'm trying to find it in my bookmarks spreadsheet here. And I don't see it. That's alright, I can find it another way. It would generate a color outside the accepted range, and it would default back. And they had like a bright green set as the base color so that they would be able to see when that happened. Unfortunately, it happens so rarely that they didn't catch it for a long time. If I go over here into the veils, bodies, not stars, give me gas giants. Looking for pink haze. I can't remember what class it is. But the point was they didn't catch the bug. And it ended up in the game. So occasionally, players were finding a gas giant where the color palette was screwy. Is it not in the veils? It's not in the veils. It has to be Morian Frontier, but I thought for sure it was veils. I have been wrong before. And once they discovered that that bug was happening, of course by then the community had kind of made a big deal out of it. And there's only 63 of them in the known galaxy here within the game. Of course it's the last place I looked. That is not pink haze, but that picture kind of shows you what they look like when you stumble into them. That is a green gas giant. So in the end, what Frontier ended up doing was they went in and they rewrote the description box here so that it kind of gives a, you know, an in-lore reason for the way that planet appears, and they just left them. Unfortunately, there is still a bug associated with them, and that is if you find a gas giant with water-based life that is also a green gas giant, it doesn't give you a codex entry for it. So a lot of times people have missed those and realized later that they had found one. But that's kind of Arcanic's bread and butter. He's got 200,000 systems under his belt. It's quite a bit more than me when they come coming up on 7,000 though. Definitely moving along. Oh, I was already charging the jump. He has done a whole lot of travel though, and his sole goal in life now is to stick his name on number 64. If he can manage that. Let's see how many systems I do have. Just over 7,000. 7,089 systems visited. And coming up on 600,000 light years. Never thought I'd see that day. Not gonna lie, I thought when I went on the Apollo 14 expedition and it was like listed as 37,000 light years, I thought, oh god, there's no way I'll be able to do all that. But it worked out just fine. Honestly, I had a great time. That was a absolute banger of an expedition. If anybody is ever looking for something fun to go do in Elite, and you don't really fancy, you know, going out on some grand expedition with other people, I would recommend that you head over to EDSM, Elite Dangerous Star Map, and if you come up, oh, it's because it's not full screen. If you got it full screen, you've got an Expeditions tab, and you can go back and look at all of the previous expeditions that have been listed here, and it still tells you what the waypoints are. So I participated in the A14 one, and if you come down, it gives you each waypoint through here. Now, you may not know exactly what's interesting in that system, because it gives you the system, not a particular planet. But that can be kind of a fun way to just go out and, you know, kind of do your own little tour of the galaxy. Honestly, A14's a lot of fun. We saw some really great stuff on that one. And then another, I guess, popular one would be the Green Gas Giant Historical Tour, which I'm not sure how many of them it goes through. Looks like it goes to 52 of them, and there are 63 currently, so there's several there. But if you follow the waypoints in order, it will kind of take you to them in some kind of sequence that at least makes sense, you know. But that's a neat tool for anybody that needs, you know, a semi-structured distraction. Speak of the Green Gas Devil himself. There he be. I was just talking about you and your, quite frankly, silly level of game knowledge, sir. I am currently neutron jumping my way back over to my helium voxel, because why not? I'm this far away from the fleet, I might as well go back in there. Green Gas Devil. I don't know if that carries all the connotations you'd like. Yeah, there you go, Rob. It is kind of fun, though. You know, if you can do it without get there-itis, and you can just kind of use it as a, you know, a loose listing of points of interest to make a slow circuit around. It's a fun way to do solo exploration, even if you missed the actual expedition. There is actually on the Apollo 14 expedition I went on, we did a memorial system. So we had somebody scouting ahead, and they identified a system that had enough bodies and landable opportunities that everyone on the expedition could get their name tagged on some part of the system. So if I come in, I don't think I see, yep, I do still have it bookmarked. But if I come in here and view system map, of our fellow commanders are spread out through all these planets. And we had, you know, quite a stacked exploration crew there. Obviously, Andrew Linton was the guy who found it, but we had all the big names. I can't remember. I ended up somewhere over here. I think I had it mapped. Maybe it was here. Yep. That was back before I changed my commander's name, so it'll forever be Howlin' Mad Murdoch instead of Jim Murdoch, but that's fine. I actually preferred that name. It doesn't work very well for fuel writing because because I copied another one. It doesn't work well because the quotes don't cooperate with the in-game search bar. So when a client goes to search me or just someone wanted to add me as a friend, it turned out to be a major pain to have quotation marks in there. Yes, Arcanic, you should absolutely become a fuel rat. Hands down. Because here's the deal, right? For long-range rescues, we have a lot of rats in the bubble, and we have a lot of rats that stage out of Colonia, so we can kind of get around. But you like to hang out up in this other quadrant, and you get around a lot. So odds are you would be pretty close by to other folks. The only thing you would have to do is modify your ship to have rat equipment on it. But honestly, the Caspian is great for that, right? Because it covers so much ground so fast. But even a Mandalay is, you know, before the Caspian, the Mandalay was the rat ship of choice. But honestly, I mean, I wouldn't. So the thing about doing fuel rats is you don't have to do it all the time. Plenty of people rat on the side. I don't have the IRC chat up all the time. And for those of you who don't know, we don't use Discord or anything like that. We use what's called an internet relay chat, which is basically what Discord is. The difference is whoever set it up owns it for Fuel Rats. Like, they own everything about that system. They own the servers it's hosted on. They control everything. So, like the recent kerfuffle with Discord, system setup. So you do have to sign up and use that, which is, if you weren't around in the 90s using chat rooms, it's a little different, but if you were, it's a great throwback. You'll love it. But, you know, I don't always have that open. I mean, right now there's 129 rats online. So somebody somewhere will take the rescue. But, yeah, honestly, given your exploration style, I mean, if you're out and you're just chilling, and you happen to be in a rat-capable ship, by all means, you know, you should join. I mean, you do have to drill, right? And there is some procedures to learn and some shorthand that they use and stuff like that. And you have to get drilled to be a full rat, which I am not. I'm only a ratling. I still need to schedule and do a drill of my own. So it was an oddity that they sent me out on my own last night. Well, not on my own. I went with another guy, but that I got dispatched at all as a ratling is a bit of an oddity.
Frameshift drive charging.
Yeah, sometimes it is hard. I honk on the way to a client, and then obviously, you know, on my way back, I've got plenty of opportunity to explore. But, yeah, I mean, you could sign up, and if you're, you know, just needing a change of pace, you can just sit there. I mean, we've got guys that sit in the bubble in a, you know, a FSD boosted Mandalay just waiting on a call to come in that they're going to be one jump away from because it's somewhere in the bubble. And it is honestly a lot of fun. Like last night, that was honestly some of the most fun I've had playing Elite in months. Just hauling ass across the galaxy to try and save this guy.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
And I know you're probably on the road, so I doubt you can see it. But the system he was in, holy crap, dude. Like, it's a wonder we were able to get to him at all. He was over here at plus 1,000. Plus 1,019. Clear up here in the corner of the conduit between the arms. Like, it was so sparse. The closest I personally could get to him was like 380, 480 light years, somewhere in there. Because there's just nothing up there. Yeah, and what's he doing out there in a 73 light year Mandalay? Like, Jesus criminy, dude. It was hell to get to him. I didn't make it, the other guy did. Which is saying something, because the other rat didn't have injections on him. It took him, after he got up there and fueled the guy, it took the other rat plodding around just to try and get himself out. Which, I felt bad, because I had injections, but he found the way to get to him first. We were both in the neighborhood just dicking around for an hour trying to figure out how to get into the same system he was in. Yeah, it was a ride. But it did make us, stop and think. We were having a little discussion over in Rat Chat. Places like that, most sane people don't go of their own free will. But now we've got Rainbow's End, which is almost as stupid of a location. And it's, people that wouldn't normally go into a sparse area like that with all that void plotting, or that don't have the experience, now they have a motivation to go down there, and they're going to get stuck. Oh yeah, the Caspian makes an absolute wonder of a rat ship. I've got stuff like, I'm jumping 83 light years, 400, I think 477 was the biggest neutron jump I saw last night. I'd have to look back at the Spanch plot. It was ridiculous. As I was getting low on fuel, I was jumping distances I've never seen. Shy of a carrier. But I'm also carrying stupid stuff on here, right? I've got a flak cannon strapped onto this bad boy. Alrighty, man. Well, don't work too hard out there. And hopefully we'll catch you later this evening, maybe if you do another stream. You caught me by surprise last Sunday. I was streaming late and missed your stream because I didn't think you were going to do a second one after the Subnautica stream, but that's been fun. I love waking up to that on Sundays. Yeah, that I guess could have been. I never thought to ask him why he was up there. We were all more concerned with how the fuck did you get up here? We actually had him in the IRC over in Rat Chat, because it was a 3-hour rescue, so that's usually what we do. We have a dispatch channel, and then we kind of have like a backroom channel where we all hang out and, plot and scheme and whatever we need to do. And for a rescue like that, essentially he was just going to report where he was and then log out because it was going to take us 3 hours to even get close to him. So we just invited him into the back room to hang out and chat with the rats while we made our way over. And the conversation was not so much the why as the how. And he had injection boosted himself in. It was a White Dwarf system, but once he made the jump in, he was under 10% fuel, and he couldn't White Dwarf boost his way back out. It was such a location. That guy had a penchant for mischief, if ever I've seen it. And I love that I'm not even, I'm not paying attention to my fuel, and it's only halfway down. And if anybody is wondering just exactly how far can a Caspian go, I did 43,000 light years last night on 3 fuel stops. I stopped 3 times to fuel. And that's it. Now, I do have an extra 64-ton tank on board, so that does need to be noted, but still, that is ridiculous fuel efficiency for neutron jumping. And I did the entire trip of 140 jumps with no FSD repairs, and I was at 94% when I got there. And I don't actually think most of that damage came from jumping. I think that came from the 2 exclusion zones I slammed into while I was trying to update Rat Chat. Which does happen. It's a good question, Rob. That is a good question. Let's answer it for giggle's sakes. So we'll take a Caspian. And assuming you actually want to go somewhere with it, it will need a fuel scoop. But the rest can be fuel tanks. So there's 64, 120. I suspect it will end up being the Caspian, for the record. The Panther has bigger slots, but fewer of them. I don't know, it might break about even. Is there... I feel like there's a way to fill all these with fuel tanks, and I can't remember. Is it Shift? No. Control? No. Alt, maybe? One of these keys will fill all available slots. Oh, I can just do this. There we go. So, with just your standard flight assists and a fuel scoop, 430 tons is what you can get on a Caspian. And then if I do a Panther 2, again, gonna empty everything out, I'll leave the 2. I guess we'll do an 8A scoop. How much does that even scoop? 1680. Holy balls, Batman. That's a lot of fuel. And then max fuel tanks in there. Oh, wow. Nope, I stand thoroughly corrected. You can get 912 tons of fuel on a Panther Clipper. Holy crap, that's a lot. There was a guy that made it almost all the way to Beagle Point using a similar tactic. He took a Anaconda, I think it was, outfitted it with the bare minimum for exploration, and filled every available slot with auxiliary fuel tanks, and economy plotted his way all the way out to Beagle. He almost made it with no fuel scoop. Absolutely impressive feat. I don't remember who it was or when it was. I've heard the story several times, and I'm fairly certain it happened, because that's the kind of ridiculous things people do in Elite Dangerous. I mean, I was hopping around the other day with my fuel scoop turned off, just because I was tired of hearing Space Siri tell me the fuel scoop was activated. And in this ship, if you're economy routing, you can go for what feels like forever without scooping, so certainly not a necessity. Oh yeah, well, the DBX, you know, it wasn't... Whoa. Came in there just a mite hot. With the DBX, I kind of do it lazy like that anyway, because it's not like a Mandy or a Caspian where it's good at, you know, recovering its entire jump in one arc around the fuel star on your way lining up to the next jump. You know, rarely in a Caspian do I have to do anything other than just follow my way around the star and line up my next jump before I've topped my tank off again. But with the DBX, it's got, one, a nice big fuel tank on it for its size of ship, and then it's got that big old Class 5 frameshift drive, but you can only fit a 4-size scoop, so the refueling is never particularly efficient with it. Disagree on what? Did a DBX having a big enough fuel tank? Oh. Well, I don't always do it that way. And like in the case of what I'm doing right now, I'm neutron boosting, and Spanch will take into account my fuel burn and stop me at an appropriate fuel star. Not that I don't watch that like a hawk, especially as I get lower on fuel. I know last night it was going to take me in, and I'm still not convinced I wouldn't have made it if I just followed the Spanch plot, because I hadn't deviated or used SCO or anything that would have changed my expected fuel burn from what it thought I was burning. But it didn't look to me like I was going to make it to the fuel star, and I deviated one stop early to fuel up, but... I wondered what all the ruckus was up there. I heard some clatter in the kitchen. That sent Bella on running over to the stairs naturally to investigate. They do sound as though they're running amok up there. But it depends on what you're doing, Rob. Like, last night before that run, I was purposefully going through non-scoopable stars anyways, looking for those, other colors of Tectonicus. So it wouldn't have mattered. Take an appropriate fuel stop here and there, but... yeah, it's just one of them things. As long as you're keeping an eye on it, you should be alright.
Frameshift drive charging.
It's when you stop paying attention that you get in trouble. Well, in that case, try not to look too close at my fuel gauge. It may change your chill opinion of my stream. Because I'm certainly just cruising along. My next refuel star is still like 20 jumps out. But I got faith. I mean, I'm burned so little per jump here.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
I will say, doing these neutron jumps like this in hot sequence is way easier than it was in the Sidewinder. The Caspian gets thrown around a lot less. So I'm headed for jump number 21. And my next refuel is jump number 36.
Frameshift drive charging.
I also feel like I double honk a lot when I'm doing this, because I can never remember when I come back out of the galaxy map if I already did it or not. Man, Rat Chat is popping over here. It was quiet as a church mouse. See what I did there? Before I started streaming, and now they're just having at it. Captain No Name, welcome in, brother. It goes. I'm slowly headed back towards the Distant Worlds fleet. After that decidedly long-range rescue last night.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
No, I get it to a degree. I can see how, you know, just holding a stick, I can see that triggering an awful lot of preparedness memory that you just can't override. Nor would you want to. Seeing as how, in reality, the way that it needs to work matters far more than whether it makes sense in the game or not. And honestly, it's a good habit to be in. People who are paranoid about running out of fuel don't often have to call the fuel rats. That's mostly people that think if they run lean to maximize jump range, they can get away with it. Those are the people that call us. I'm not mad at those people either, though. I mean, how many games can you say you've played that have an entirely third-party, out-of-game operated search and rescue service? Oh, I can see that not being a terrible amount of fun. I also imagine that somebody further up chain of command's not happy when a multi-million-dollar aircraft is lost for some kind of stupid reason versus Well, I guess they're all kind of stupid reasons.
Drive operated beyond safety
I was going to say versus being shot down in combat, but even to a degree, that is kind of dumb in itself. From a certain point of view, anyway. Yeah, I can imagine that. I don't know if I've seen the documentary, Will. I might have. I have seen,
charging.
let me think here. No, I'm thinking of a ham radio documentary. I may not have. I did watch a streamer that joined the Fuel Rats, or called or joined or rode along or something. He did some sort of attaché content, if you will, where he was hanging out, just kind of seeing what a day in the life of a rat was. That was kind of fun. Oh, I'll have to go check that out.
Warning. Frameshift drive operated beyond safety limits.
Yeah, Rob,
Drive
I can imagine if I were involved in a budget of any kind, I wouldn't be real happy if somebody just fudged the math and ran out of gas in $1 million helicopter. Or more likely, multi-million-dollar helicopter. Or anything for that matter. I know at the airport I was at, we used to occasionally see C-17s and C-5s all the time, and those things are fucking huge.
Frameshift drive charging.
I thought it was a very neat community idea, though. And then, of course, we also have the Hull Seals, which are a similar search and rescue service that is geared towards fixing people with busted hulls. Although, and we were talking about this in Rat Chat the other night, you know, for the most part, everyone that does ratting, especially the deep space stuff, we're also carrying repair limpets just because, you know, if you're... I guess the rationale is if we're going to fly 40-some thousand light years to fuel you, we better make sure you can still leave when we're done. And I know a lot of Hull Seals that do the same thing. You know, they'll carry fuel limpets just because if you're going to be going, you may as well be able to do the whole job regardless of whether it's technically in your job description or not. It would be kind of silly to have to call a fuel rat and a Hull Seal for something when one player could just carry all the necessary equipment.
Frameshift drive supercharged.
And on something like a Caspian, it literally makes no difference. The weight is negligible to this thing. I mean, I've got a flak launcher on here, a 4G planet hangar, I've got a fighter hangar, got a mining laser on there, collector limpets, rescue limpets. Just silly stuff that I would never carry on a normal exploration ship, but because this is a large ship, you know, those 2 and 3 ton items just don't add up the way they do on something like a Mandalay or a DBX, where the weight is actually meaningful. It just doesn't matter to a Caspian. Yeah, Eve never caught my attention the way Elite did.
Frameshift drive
It seemed, and I'm kind of like the same kind of person. I like to do the spreadsheet min-max stuff. I mean, that's why I spend so much time in Coriolis building ships. Because I enjoy seeing just how far can you push a ship. You know, just the other day I was thinking 98 light years was the best max jump you could get on a Mandalay, and I pushed one over 101 last night. Just sitting here, you know, sucking back soda, trying to figure out what can I do. But for whatever reason, even it didn't appeal to me, even though that's, you know, kind of the gameplay of choice over there.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
I don't remember how many hours I've got in Eve, but it's not a ton. Eight hours. I have 8 hours in Eve. Yeah, that's the other thing. I'm not really a PvP guy. Never have been. I very much enjoy the PvE combat. I love to hunt pirates in Elite, but I'm for sure not much for the PvP stuff. Even though Elite does, you know, kind of cram combat down your throat to a point. Like, if you want to do the suit and on-foot engineering stuff, you almost have to raid settlements. So you have to play their shitty half-ass, you know, first-person shooter to get the materials and stuff you need. Yeah, I've watched a fair bit of YouTube content on Eve. It never stuck. I think if I switch away from Elite at any point, it'll probably be to something like Star Citizen. At which point I'll just, you know, sell a kidney on the black market and quit my job, I guess, because God knows I'll never leave my chair. Alright, that's D14. We'll say it's much easier to keep track of your jump sequence when you use Elite Dangerous Exploration Buddy to do your spanch plotting. For anybody who is unaware, if you've got Elite Dangerous Exploration Buddy, when you start charging your frameshift drive, it swaps from bodies to the route, shows the system you're in, and highlights the one you're jumping to. And then if I double-click the system after that, it goes ahead and puts it on my clipboard, which makes doing this neutron plot routing much easier, in my opinion, than doing it from the Spanch website directly, where you have to manually click the box to say I went here, and then, you know, also hit the copy button. I mean, it's not far from being the same number of clicks. It just seems to be a slightly better workflow. I get out of sequence a lot less doing it this way. Plus, I've got Elite Dangerous Buddy open anyways. It might as well be giving me useful information. Yeah, that one was a spicy meatball. I feel like I run into more of those than I've earned a right to. Honestly, last night the trip out wasn't bad. I think I only hit like 4 or 5 out of 140 that were that bad. A lot of them were really quite gentle, you know, lazy river kind of neutron stars. Doing jump 28 now, so a little more than halfway.
System scan complete. Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive.
I'd be shocked if we had anything on our star charts for this far out with any reliability. I am way the hell out here. I'm also in the galactic plane. I doubt we can see this. Yeah, because Sagae and the galactic core are almost dead in between me and Sol. I'd be shocked if we had much at all actually cataloged out here in this particular region. Yeah, that could be. I don't know what the generation criteria is, to be honest. And to your point, there are some things I don't want to know. I'm okay not knowing all of the Stellar Forge mechanics. It does take away some of the magic. Is my fuel gauge making you nervous yet? I've still got 8 or so jumps to get to that refuel star. This is a par for the course neutron in my book.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
I think when I hit that helium box, I am just going to finish it before I catch up to Distant Worlds, though. Unless by some goofy, you know, miracle, the next waypoint is the beacon I need to scan for the decal, in which case I'll hotfoot it over there. But quite honestly, too much neutron jumping like this wears thin on me pretty quick. Unless there's a purpose, you know, it was very different last night jumping out to that rescue, knowing that there was a somewhat time-sensitive goal at the end of it. I mean, it wasn't a code red run. The guy, he wasn't on emergency oxygen or anything. He was just down to 10%. And he was logged out, chilling in Rat Chat, just talking with us, but still, you know, the knowledge that he was waiting on us to get to him gives you some kind of impetus to get there. It's always the return trip that sucks. Because now I eventually need to make my way back to DW3, but I don't have a whole lot of motivation to get there in any kind of hurry right now. Which is okay. I mean, I'm not super attached to the fleet now anyways. The POIs haven't been great. In general, I have not enjoyed DW3 nearly as much as I did the Apollo 14 expedition. I feel like early in the expedition, when it was fresh and, you know, the experience was kind of, it was riding the high of my previous expedition experience, and now that they've kind of not met that expectation, the love affair's kind of over. I do like to hear Neil deGrasse Tyson talk science. Space in particular. I love that Morgan Freeman did that series that was kind of Cosmos-esque, but I would love to see, you know, like an entire modern series like Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, he's no Carl Sagan, but I enjoy his explanations. I don't always enjoy his politics, but I do enjoy his explanations. You know, that's true, Rob. I hadn't considered, I guess, radio astronomy can probably cut through a lot of that glitter. It's actually, because I do ham radio too, and there's a fun little experiment out there that we sometimes do when we're doing like demos at schools and stuff, where you can take an old Dish Network TV satellite and realign the waveguide and set it up with a computer program to effectively turn it into a very crude radio telescope. And by very crude, I mean you can point it directly at the sun, and you can tell that it's pointed directly at the sun on the program versus when you're not. So it does show the basic concepts of, you know, radio astronomy to school-age kids. But there's like a whole subset of hobbyists out there that go get like the big C-band dishes that are, you know, 2 and 3 meters wide. And those are big enough that they can effectively be used for at least closer range radio astronomy on a hobby level. And just building them out and setting them up with all the motor tracking and interpretive software and stuff. A lot of guys have a lot of fun with that. I suppose if I ever had the property for it, I would be inclined to set something like that up. I do genuinely enjoy a lot of astronomy. Yeah, I know he did a mini-series, and I've seen it. I do wish he'd do like a full one though. Like that could be a standing program for several seasons in my book. I need to change the rest of the heist text, because the whole Davy Jones locker thing just does not fit with an Elite Dangerous themed stream. Oh, no kidding. Yeah, that would have been a C-band dish though. That's probably what, 2.5, 3 meters wide. Are you one of those hobbyist nuts that have built their own radio telescope? I say with all the love in my heart, because if I had the space in the dish, I would absolutely be working on one of those in my spare time. That's something I've wanted to do for several years. 18 feet. Good lord. That's a monster. The biggest ones I see in my local area routinely that are still planted in people's yards are usually something on the order of like 1.5 to maximum 3 meters. 18 feet. That's a big daddy, though. Is that still C-band satellite? I wouldn't think so. I mean, I guess it could be. I guess it all depends on where you focus the waveguide. Admittedly, parabolic antennas are the weak portion of my ham radio knowledge. I'm a little bit more into dipoles and NHF antennas than that, but antennas as a whole definitely intrigue me. Oh, okay. No, you were a ham. So I assume you let your license lapse. Don't do that. It's free. After you have it, all you have to do is go on, let the FCC know every 10 years that, yeah, I still want to do this. There's no renewal fee. I just renewed mine in 23? I should probably look at that so I know when the next renewal's coming up. Speaking of, I need to go in there and change my station address. I haven't done that yet. They do get a bit tetchy about that kind of thing. Not that I have a station set up, but, they get a report of interference. That's not where I live anymore. They will get a little upset about that. Even though it wasn't my fault, whatever it was. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. They are pretty wide-banded, depending on how they're tuned, but you can also make them incredibly narrow-banded. I know a lot of the ones that get used for like microwave relay links, it's on the order of like 34 dB of signal gain when you're using a parabolic. I don't know how well you could get the resolution to be on like an old C-band dish or something. I've not done a ton of research on it just because I know it's not something I can currently do, and if I go do a ton of research, I'll just want to do it more and then be pissed off that I don't have the means, the time, or the locale. And honestly, up there in Alaska, that would be the place to do that kind of thing. I'll bet the EM pollution as a whole is way thinner up there. Just because you have such a lower density of populace, Where I'm at, we've got cell phones and cell towers, and everybody's got a router, and 30 some odd wireless devices in their house, and their car's wireless, and ignition noise from a combustion engine running down the street. It's amazing how when you start doing HF radio, you pick up on all just the weird shit that comes through the radio. Thunder static on the low bands. I actually used to hang out because we have something called the Internet Radio Linking Project now, which is basically a repeater that is internet node linked to other repeaters running the same protocol. And we have a link fairly close to me, and it's easy enough to set one up at home with a Raspberry Pi. But I used to connect into the Anchorage IRLP node, talk to some guys up around there. No kidding. That's pretty good for a home-built dish. That's wild. See, now you're making me want to get that set up in some way. And it would do me no good where I currently reside. It just so much noise I probably couldn't see the sun reliably.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
I'm still fairly upset about the destruction of Arecibo. I understand there's better ways of doing it now, and there wasn't a lot of use for it, but it was still such a monument to radio astronomy. Okay, am I just dropping out and forgetting to supercharge? Oh no, that was my fuel star. I keep trying to line up with it, and I'm not targeting it. Gotta do it the old-fashioned way here. Yeah, that's a fuel gauge for the ages. That's about where I was last night. One more neutron jump in from where I'm at now. Talk about making you sweat a little bit. That'll do it. Now, if Coriolis is right, this will take roughly a minute and a half. And for anybody out there watching that doesn't know what Arecibo is, it is was a radio telescope in Puerto Rico? Yes, it was in Puerto Rico. You may know it better from... And it was actually a really neat setup because you had this gigantic concrete, or not concrete, but this... Actually, it might have been. I'd have to look to be sure. Do a little more research. But you had this big dish underneath that was stationary. And most terrestrial radio telescopes, you move the dish, and the waveguide is affixed to the dish in a fixed position. But to aim Arecibo, because it was such a massive dish, they actually moved the focal point of the waveguide on these cable systems, kind of like a football stadium cable cam. And that was how they pointed the telescope. But it fell into disrepair, and nobody was maintaining it, and eventually some cable failures dropped the entire waveguide down into the dish and damaged it, and it's just kind of done now, which is sad. But for a long time it was I think the largest single radio telescope. Of course, in today's world, the way they do it is with multiple radio telescopes around the world to get far better resolution than even Arecibo could have done. Thousand-foot aerial. 1,000-foot aerial wouldn't be terrible down on 160. That's what we call a beverage antenna. It's receive only. Obviously, you're not going to transmit on it, but if you've got a lot of guys out west or something that have ranches, they'll run a wire all the way out like one leg of the fence of their cow pasture or something, and they've got an awesome receive antenna. But yeah, I'm still sad about Arecibo. Partly because GoldenEye is one of my favorite Bond films from my younger years. Just kind of left me angry. Yeah, I know the common size people use for hobbyists are like 3-meter dishes and down. I spot one around town every now and then and wonder if they'd be willing to part with it. Okay, so I'm here. I just refueled to that waypoint with just normal plotting. So let's just plot to that one and plot route. There we go. 6 jumps, so I don't have to keep bouncing in and out. Oh, we're getting close. Like 12 jumps to the voxel. Actually, more importantly, 12 jumps to determining if you can flak cannon mine crystalline shards, which I very much want to know the answer to. Although, you know, with a 2-foot hobby dish, that wouldn't necessarily have to be something you had a whole bunch of space for. That could be something... Because one of my favorite parts of ham radio is portable ham radio. I've got whole setups that fit in like a sling pack with a wire antenna and stuff. So I enjoy like the portability of stuff and being able to go out and deploy field operations and stuff. Enjoy the idea of, you know, being on hand for emergency communications and stuff for community disasters and events. But I suppose it wouldn't be that hard to put together like a portable radio astronomy kit that I could take camping or something. Take like a Blue Eddy power pack or something. Just run a small netbook. Oh, what am I doing? I've got like 6 jumps. I don't need to
Frameshift drive
scoop
charging.
or plot or anything. I mean, the muscle memory is strong. I was throttled back, hand on the keyboard, ready to go. Might look into that. Might just look and see what it would take to set up something like that. Because that I could do. It would be a fun little side project. I'll bet I could even leverage 3D printing to make it happen in a nice, clean, portable fashion. Now that I hadn't heard, but that doesn't surprise me. SAG-A is a massive radio signal. And I do happen to have a Pringles can handy. And a router antenna somewhere. If not, I'm sure one of the Wi-Fi antennas that are on the back of my tower I'm not using would work just fine. I've probably got the SMA stud mount somewhere laying around too. If not, I've got a cheap Baofeng radio that doesn't work anymore that has an SMA mount. Pull out of it. And I'll tell you, man, I'm not a huge fan of Chinese ham radio equipment, but those Baofeng radios are so hard to beat. When you're looking at an ICOM that's going to run you $300 for a single band handheld, or a dual or tri-band Baofeng that's waterproof with USB-C battery pack charging for $50, it's a really hard sell not to go with it. I keep those around just for beater radios. I keep one in my work bag just in case, so I can monitor the weather net and stuff. If stormy weather or something rolls in, at least then I can listen in and hear what the spotters are saying. Or if I get real bored, I can kick it over and listen to the FM, broadcast band. Very strange collection of features on those Baofengs. You can tell they're not made for the Western amateur radio world. What a strange collection of topics we've gone over so far today. We've ranged from fuel routing and, stellar cartography to ham radio and amateur radio astronomy.
Frameshift drive charging.
Yeah, that's true. I would think the easiest way to do that would be to use some kind of bandpass filter. Which I think, if I remember right, the article for the DirecTV one, you do use a simple bandpass filter on it even. My electronics theory isn't super strong, but luckily there are tools and websites aplenty to help calculate out those circuits, and in today's world it's easy enough to jump online and order all the necessary components to get something put together. I'll have to look into that. I'll let you know what I come up with. Of course, again, the DirecTV one that's very simple. Its signal to noise ratio is effectively, are you pointing directly at the sun or not? Which is a pretty wide margin of error, admittedly. But I'll bet that could be refined with a little patience and tinkering. And that article was written before 3D printing was huge. I'll bet you could 3D print a whole new waveguide structure and everything to help you get it tuned in better than you could easily achieve modifying the stock one that's already set up for DirecTV reception. I mean, you can tune them a little bit within their design parameter already, just based on what they're made for, but probably not enough. Ah, see? That's basically IRLP before IRLP. So that's basically what we do now. We've tied repeaters, and there's a couple of methods. There's the Internet Radio Linking Project, IRLP, and it functions on nodes, and you can cross-link repeaters. There is the ICOM digital modes, D-Star, and they provide a similar functionality. Yaesu has System Fusion that has a similar functionality. And that's not even getting into all the DMR rabbit holes that are out there now. Echolink is big. I use Echolink on occasion. They've got a phone app and a computer program where you can essentially dial in. I mean, you still have to prove you have a radio license to use the program, obviously, because when you link in, you're going out over the air. Crystal radios. That's some old stuff. I had an old crystal controlled HT, an old 2-meter HT that was shaped about like a cinder block with a rubber duck about a foot long. And it was like a 70s model HT. It had a full DTMF keypad and everything. I love blowing people's minds when they don't, they see me using a handheld radio and they wonder why in God's name I'd use that instead of a cell phone. And then I get the joy of explaining to them the old phone patches and how we were making phone calls out in public to see what the wife needed from the store long before cell phones were available. And that it's essentially the same technology. But yeah, long story short, I could sit here at my desktop and dial up the local repeater here in town without even using a radio, and then connect it to another radio somewhere around the world. It's pretty amazing what they've done, honestly. From a licensing standpoint, it's actually really cool because when you get licensed here in the U.S., you start. I'm sure when you did it, you still had novice, tech plus, general, advanced, and extra. Now it's just technician, general, and extra. But as a tech, you can use the local repeater stuff, but your high frequency allocations are just a tiny little sliver on 10 meters and some CW Morse code privileges on the higher bands. But with stuff like IRLP and Echolink and stuff, you can talk all over the world now on 2-meter privileges. I've not looked a ton into LORAN. My interest in sailing and leaving this life of stupidity behind has given me sort of a peripheral knowledge of it, but I haven't actually looked into it much. I know it's an older technology that's really not much used anymore. Well, you got some knowledge to hit me with? I'm all about the knowledge. Almost there. Man, I wish this dog would lay down on her bed and just chill. She's over here snooping around trying to get into stuff, so I'm watching her way closer than I should have to. She's just being rotten today. But given her recent health issues, I'm going to let it slide. She can be a little rotten.
Warning. Frameshift drive
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was basically my understanding, was that it was
frameshift drive
essentially a really smart radio direction finding system. I'll have to look into that more. I keep meaning to now that, and every time I bump into it, I think, yeah, I should research that a little bit, see what that was about. Are you, if we're gonna talk old wild tech, are you familiar with the AT&T long line system? That is a fascinating bit of communications history here in the U.S. Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll appeal much more to my radio knowledge in a day where you have, you know, full-on chart plotters linked to GPS and everything. I mean, hell, you can do Navionics on your phone or an iPad or something now and have 10 times the navigation power of a Yachty in the 70s had. Partially. The long lines system was essentially the microwave relay system used for all long distance transmission before we started doing buried cables and stuff. And if you pay attention and look around, you can actually find the long lines towers. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys didn't have them up there. They're real big down here in the States, you know, the lower 48. But now that I think about it, I don't know. I don't suppose you'd be able to really get a signal from down here to up there on microwave frequency.
drive supercharged.
You'd have to go up the coast, but you'd run into line of sight problems. Let's see. TT lines. There's a map of, there's a whole website dedicated to this. But that's kind of what these towers look like, and they've got, you know, different levels. You've got all these microwave horns pointed about in different directions, and they set them up in kind of like a spoke and hub pattern. So this was definitely a hub, and lower horns were usually more local stuff. And there was a, you know, a radio bunker at the base of it with all the switching equipment, and you know, that's how all your long distance telephone calls and stuff were routed, was over UHF microwave transmission. But there is a site list. Oh no, Alaska has sites. I'll be damned. Let's see. It's not listing any. Oh no, it is listing one near your general area. So let's just see if that's on Google Maps. This is a fun little side quest. I love doing these. Oh, nope, it was in town. It's gone. Long gone. So that would have been the site of... let's see. Pick something a little more rural. See, that's given like an avenue. That makes me believe that that is also going to be a defunct site. A lot of them are gone now. I know here locally we've got like 3 or 4 in the part of Ohio I'm in. One of them about a 15-minute drive from where I'm sitting. That's not bad. Give me a random site. Let's see if I can get that one to come up. This is something I've got a buddy. We'll just sit for hours looking around Google Maps trying to find old long lines towers. Yep, that one's gone. or the location's not quite right, but that looks like it's been reclaimed for another use. But that's it, you know. They, let's see. No, that's not what I wanted. How hard is it, folks, to just make a fucking picture show up on your website? I'm not going to all that trouble. Yeah, a lot of them were converted to cell towers. I mean, they were, for one, a lot of those sites, because they were critical to national security and communications, they were actually nuclear hardened. There's a number of those sites that are essentially a full-on concrete tower. Hopefully, you know, they wouldn't have survived a direct strike or anything, but oh yeah, that's not going to do me any good in Elite Dangerous, is it? But they were, you know, set up that if they were kind of on the outside of the blast radius, a lot of them would still function. But they're so well built, about 90% of them are owned by like American Tower and some other third-party companies. Now AT&T doesn't hardly own any of them, and none of them are in use for that purpose anymore. But a lot of them have been repurposed as general cell coverage towers, or there's a couple. There's a ham that bought one here in Ohio, and he's using the damn thing for his ham radio tower. Yeah. Well, a lot of the in-town ones did get taken down because they're, you know, unsightly. We can't have that in our city. Personally, I think those are some of the most beautiful antenna towers, especially if you have to work on them. You know, I've climbed 180-foot tower to work on it here in town for our club antennas and stuff, and it's a long way up. I don't care who you are or how good you are with heights. When you look down and you're on an antenna that's a single point terminator with nothing but guy wires, and you look down and you're watching the base of that thing, you know, swing 3, 4, 5 feet either side, it's downright unnerving. Those AT&T towers, you know, you could walk right up a nice set of stairs with a handrail, had all the room in the world to plant your feet and do what you needed to do. I wish you Godspeed there, Mr. Will. Godspeed on that paperwork. Yeah, fortunately, like out here in most of Ohio, a lot of them are rural enough that they've just been left alone. I kind of make a game of it when I'm driving out of town and I'm cruising down the highway, because once you learn what to look for, you can spot them no problem. So anytime I've got, you know, good lines of sight and I'm on, you know, 71 or something and going down to Cincinnati, I look around and see if I can spot new ones, and then I'll come back and check the map and see if I've found any. They're all pretty well documented on that website. Just some of them don't have pictures and a lot of them are gone. But the existing ones, if you saw one and you want to see if that's what it was, it'll for sure be listed. Very cool though. And there's a number of YouTube videos out there exploring them, and, you know, people that have bought them or gotten permission to access them, and some that, you know, were less scrupulous about it. There's actually a Discord dedicated to it I'm in. It's always neat to see guys that are, you know, owners or have access. Some guys that you know, do like contract work for American Tower, they've got kind of blanket access to get into them, and because they're hobbyists, you know, if they happen to be in one, they'll stop and look around and get some good pictures and throw them up in the Discord. Woo! It's a long way for those to sway. I can see that though. You guys get some pretty intense weather up there. Although I'd say, well, no, I guess it probably is. The weather coming up through that little crook in the continent there does get pretty wild. I was going to say it's probably not as bad as up in the Strait, but honestly, it's probably a case of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, isn't it? I say as somebody who's never been up there. Just from the research I've done, that seems to be the consensus anyways. It's not a comforting thought when you're in the house, is it? Yeah, I know the ones up here, the base of the towers are probably, oh, I don't know, 30 or 40 feet square. They're pretty big. They're wide boys on the bottom there. But I mean, even at the top, the upper platforms are usually at least 10 by 10, so they don't taper all that much. They weren't really concerned about it being pretty. They were concerned about it, you know, being high enough. And, you know, here in Ohio, it's kind of hilly, so we've actually got quite a few. We've got 200 and some of those radio sites scattered across the state. To blanket the state, that's how many it took, because you had so many low spots you had to also be able to point an antenna into, you know, or be close enough to run wire to for the telephone service and that kind of thing. But that was how your nationally syndicated television channels ran too. They also went over the long lines comm system. One of those things that just operated in the background and most people don't even know existed. And a major technical feat all its own that made life the way it was, and just, it's amazing how nobody knows what it was or how it worked.
Beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
Shelly, welcome in, girl. What's happening? I figured I'd go ahead and get my stream out of the way. I know you said you wanted to get some more elite time in, so I thought I'd do an early stream today. I'm also on my way back from a ridiculously long rescue. Oh, you know, I spent 3 hours for a hop and a skip across the galaxy last night, 43,000 light years. About 3 hours of straight jumping to get out there to
Frameshift drive charged.
help rescue a guy that ran out of gas. So now I'm on the trip back, but it's going good. We're sitting here having all kinds of sidebar conversations about radio and astronomy and all that stuff. Well, getting out of the crater's easy. You just log in and press R. You'll thrust right up out of it. I do wish I could... What would be nice is if I could get to that same system you're in and guide you, but you're in the starter system, so I can't get in there. The way those work, it's they're a one-way ticket out. You start out in that little starter area so that, like, gankers and stuff don't bother you. And once you rank up and leave, you lose the permit to access that area, so my carriers, just my characters can't even get in there. That's alright though. We'll get your sea legs on you, and then you can come out into the real world. As I missed the neutron twice. Come on.
Warning.
Rocking the
Frameshift
Caspian.
drive operating beyond safety limits.
Oh, that's cool.
Frameshift drive supercharged.
I didn't realize the Kovas voice changed when you were in the other camera. I don't think I've ever tried to do that. But yeah, we'll get you sorted. What time do you want to do that? I am free the rest of the day. I just need to get to bed at a reasonable hour. So like 10 o'clock my time, which I think's, what, 7 o'clock your time? Thereabouts?
Frameshift drive charging.
She just woke up. Yeah. We can go a little later. I think it'll be like mid-afternoon to early evening for you. Yeah, 7 your time. I could probably swing until 11 and not suffer too much tomorrow. Yeah, Rob, I think you guys are actually in the same time zone. She's down there on Vancouver Island, so close if not the same.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
Tempe. Yeah, I know, it's a tall order. Yeah, you're supposed to be doing paperwork. Get your ass back to work.
Frameshift drive supercharged.
Oh, I can feel it. 3 more jumps. This is jump number 49 out of 51 total. Okay. No, I'm not in a huge rush. I'm just working my way back. I don't have to be back at a particular time. As far as Distant Worlds is concerned, as long as I make it to the beacon and scan it whenever they release it, I'll get my decal, and that's about the only thing I care about at this point in terms of the expedition. So, I'm a free agent. Nah, he's up north of you. He's up there in Alaska.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits.
Although I'm sure there's days he wishes it was Hawaii. It's quite the environment change between those two locales. I always forget if I target it or not, and then I screw up and untarget it.
Frameshift drive charging.
I'm hoping we all get lucky and nobody does daylight savings here soon. That is the dumbest shit since sliced bread. Yeah, I'm glad I couldn't do that, Rob. I took the dog out earlier and thought it was quite pleasant. And I hope it just stays that way. In fact, I'm gonna crack a window. It could stay like mid 60s to low 70s year round, and I'd be quite content except for the bugs. I am all too happy to let it get cold enough to kill some of those guys off.
Warning. Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged. Frameshift drive charging.
33 degrees and a heat wave. Last Sunday it was 81 degrees here in Ohio. Only for the day. The next day it was promptly back down in the 30s and snowing a little bit. It wasn't sticking, but it was snowing. So our weather is a fickle mistress. Alright, last jump into the helium voxel.
Operating beyond safety limits.
I'm actually excited for this,
Supercharged.
as I've been waiting about 2 weeks to test this theory about crystalline shards and mining. So let's see if it works. You got any bets? Let's see here. See if I can remember how to do this. I'm not going to throw a whole lot of faith in it, but we'll try it real quick. Let's see if did that work? I don't know. I tried to throw a poll up. I don't know if it went through or not, though. We'll see.
Frameshift drive charging.
I did it through Streamlabs, which may not have been the way to do that. Oh, I guess the smarter way to do that would have been through YouTube. There we go.
Fuel scoping.
Alright, now I gotta remember where these bad boys are. They have to be a certain distance from the star. They may not even be in this system. I think the easiest way will be to check my codex. D12-2. That is where I'm at, right? FTF? Yep. So we need to go to D12-2. So I lied. We got one more jump to go. Well, the backstory is you used to be able to mine brain trees for the high-end raw mats with a flak cannon and collector limpets. So you would basically fly overhead and launch the remote flak cannon and let it detonate on the brain trees, which would then knock all of the materials loose, and then you would just send out collector limpets. Oh, I bookmarked it, of course I did. You would send out collector limpets, would then run down and get the materials, because the alternative is to land, go out in an SRV, and do it the hard way. But FDev changed it because they didn't want people mining that way. I'll spend a heatsink, I'm not slowing down. And the problem was you'd have to like do it and then back your ship up so that the brain trees would de-render. Otherwise your limpets would get stuck in the brain trees. But with crystalline shards, they're a very vertical structure, and there's no like limbs or anything on them, so there's nothing for the limpet to get stuck on to start with. So I suspect that even without you know, backing up out of render distance, that you should be able to use this mining technique. Now, I just have to remember which planet they were on. You would think ED Buddy would tell me, but it doesn't. Well, I left a bookmark. Did I leave myself breadcrumbs? I landed there. I'll bet that's my boy. Let's try that and see. Oh, you know what? I can look in the system map. What am I doing? Screwing up already. Before I go flying over there, because that is a bit of a distance. It has one biological, and it was crystalline shards. Alright. Now that we know, let's go have a gander. Of course, we're going to take the expressway, since I haven't. When I was originally out here surveying the beginning of this voxel, I was in my DBX, so this was not an option. It was just a very long super cruise out there. But we'll take the fast way. Relatively fast way. Faster than the other way. If this were a Cobra 5, we'd have done been there. I will say, I appreciate that they attempt to do some balancing with the Super Cruise overcharge. Like, this is obviously a good long-range explorer, but it's not the fastest SCO ship at all. It tops out at 3000 C versus the Cobra 5 and the Kestrel. They'll do 7000. But there's, like, the Mandalay does 4, I think. So this is a touch slower than it even. Which kind of makes sense, you know, it's a way bigger ship. Dog, if you don't find somewhere in light, you and me are gonna fight. Because you are everywhere you're not supposed to be. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I might love you, but you're being a pain in my ass. Settle down. Go find somewhere to park your butt. Yeah, my last hut and run I did in the Cobra took me 73 minutes. And I didn't take nearly enough fuel for the job. I ran out of fuel about 200,000 light seconds in and had to slow boat it the rest of the way, but even at 73 minutes, that's a shave off the old 2.5 hour time by a lot. Oh, noob looped it. We noob looped it. That's what I get for talking shit. There we go. Alright, down we go. And what I want to find is a nice big cluster, a big forest of these crystals. And for anybody who's never seen them, these are just a tall crystal structure on the ground that you can shoot a little piece off of and mine. Ideally, if you find a good one, it's got something like polonium, which you can then trade down and fill up a bunch of lower level mats with. It's also the Lupashame. It has many names. It certainly still can be called the Lupashame. And I interchange them pretty frequently. Yeah, Fumarole. Man, the retros on this thing are just wonderful. I'm sure I already scanned to that. So, let's find some crystals. Oh yeah, I'm 50 meters off. I should be seeing them. Oh, you know what? I had the, I didn't look to see what that filter was set on. I may not be on the right spot of the planet. Back up we go. I forgot the geology things will also have a filter. They do have a way of doing that. She does too, because she'll get into stuff and I'll be paying attention to her, and next thing I know I've looped it or beefed it or something. She was the cause of at least one of my run-ins with the exclusion zone of a white dwarf last night. The other one was actually Frontier's fault. The game crashed, and when I came back in, I logged back in inside the exclusion zone, so I got half fried trying to get back out of it and back into Super Cruise. Just need to get high enough here that I can use the surface scanner. Which I think it makes you go up above drop altitude. Yep, that tracks. As soon as I got above drop, it popped up. And yeah, see, I had it on lava spouts. There we go. So now I need to go to the crystalline shards, the pink spot. Kind of sounds like a name for a bar, doesn't it? The pink spot. NPC rats. We don't have NPC rats. They're all players. But we'll go anywhere. So the basics of this mining method, for those that don't know, you need to have a remote launch flak cannon, which we do. Remote release flak launcher, sorry. And you need collector limpets, which we also have. Not a ton though, I don't think. Yeah, I've got 3 on board. That'll do for testing though, which is really what I'm interested in. I think I'm mostly full on the materials these produce anyways, because when I found them I mined up till I was full. Which was good, because I needed those injection mats for the rat run last night. I would ideally like to find a bigger cluster of them than not. I'm seeing a couple singles, like there's one. It's just a single. There's a couple doubles. Hey, there we go. That's the ticket right there. So, see if I can do this without crashing or getting too awful close. If I gently slide in here, boy, this would look ridiculous on the third-person camera. You see that tiny little crystal on the side of the big spike? That is targetable in an SRV or on foot. This truly does look absurd. I love it. Oh, my antennas are actually in the ground. Cool to know that those don't have collision. Honestly, I'm kind of proud of that parking job since I'm not landed. That's a hell of a job right there. But you normally come down on an SRV, you target this, you shoot at it, it pops off, and then you have to retarget it and, you know, go scoop it up with the cargo scoop. So mining these is kind of a pain. And as you can see, some of these have like multiple shards on them, so the angles have to be just right, and it's a lot of driving around. It's really quite a nuisance to mine anything in an SRV. I enjoy it to a degree, but I know a lot of people don't. The way this worked back in the day, before they broke it for brain trees, was you would go... Oh, cool, I already have a firing group set up for that. You use the flak launcher, which the way that works, and if I deploy them...
Flight assist on.
Not quite what I was after. There we go. So there's my flak launcher. And the way they work is when you squeeze the trigger, they will fire around, and as long as you hold the trigger, it doesn't go off. When you let go, it gives you a little firework. Now, this is an experimental weapon that was put in for the Thargoid War. It was specifically designed to deal with the Thargoid, or Thargon swarms that would come out of the interceptors. But people quickly adapted them to mining, because if I fire one down here and release it on the ground, it'll knock most of those bits off. So in theory, there should be a bunch of pieces down there. I just can't see them. So if I pop off a few collectors, in a perfect world, they'll fly down there and collect anything that popped loose.
Programming linked drone. Cargo scoop deployed.
And they're just circling, so I didn't break anything loose yet. Ah, there one goes. Let's see if it works. Nope, he crashed. And he crashed, so if I back up out of render distance, does it still work for them?
Programming linked drone.
And this is going to matter more about whether I have limpet range for them to see that there's stuff down there to go get and go get it. Yep, he's circling, so I don't think so. Maybe if I edge in just enough to let the limpet see that there's something there, and then back up again. Try that. Try a little sciencing here. I gotta be quick about it, because I gotta get back out of render distance before he gets to the ground. Okay, there he goes.
Collector limit
Nope.
expired.
Apparently it does not work. That's unfortunate. I'm saddened by that. But that was what science is all about, right? Discovering the way. I will briefly demonstrate the correct way to do this,
Landing gear deployed.
since it is apparently the only way to do this.
Cargo speed retracted.
So you would normally pop out an SRV, and this is how you get all of your base engineering materials. So for anybody doing the material grind,
Low gravity warning.
you know, when you look over here, you've got these materials, and then you've got your manufactured and your encodeds. Well, some of these higher level ones, like polonium, you can get from crystalline shards. Now, they're not terribly convenient. In fact, most people will trade to get polonium rather than trade polonium to get other things, because they're so far out. But the same mining method applies to everything, whether it's geology mining or braintree mining or crystalline shards. You're going to come out, get a clear shot of the little shard, target it, shoot at it. Helps to have the right mode selected. It'll pop off. Make sure your cargo scoop is down.
Cargo scoop deployed.
Target the piece that popped off, in this case, antimony. Hey, I need this. Hell, we might just sit here and do some mining. 'Cause, I've burned up a lot of that, apparently. Boom breaks. Hey, Double Tap. Welcome in, sir. I'm, well, I was doing some testing. And when that testing failed, I'm resorting to the intended mechanic here. Because I need to refill some materials, and there's no time like the present. This is normally what happens, for the record. The fact that that last one popped right off in a nice convenient spot, that's not normally how it works. But then you target it, and as you can see, off to the bottom left there, you see the little square bracket. That's your cargo scoop targeting. If it's red, it's outside. If it's got a green outline, it's inside. You can see the little piece of material there wiggling back and forth. But you just sneak up on it and scoop it up. It's fairly easy to do in the SRV. Manually scooping material on a ship is a whole other matter. Not generally a pleasant one. And it's not terrible, because when you're mining these, you do get 3 chunks of material. Well, three quantity for every chunk you mine. So out of the 150 there, I'd only have to mine a third of that, which is nice. Let's all double tap into this fine Sunday afternoon. See, I don't have the right angle there. I gotta wiggle around. Yeah, bad news, Tranquila. The flak cannon mining does not work on crystalline shards. The limpets go down, and when they attempt to collect the material, they splat on the ground. So I don't think what FDev changed had anything to do with the brain trees. I think they changed the limpets so that they have to be closer to the ground to collect or something. I'm not sure. I tried to back out a render distance, and I can't do it fast enough. maybe... I guess my next test would be to get a better class of collector limpet to see if something with more range on it would work. Because what I had to do was creep up until I was in render distance in order for the limpet to take off, which I think was a range issue for the limpet. So maybe if I had a better range collector limpet, I could get away with it. But this is an exploration ship, and I think all I had were Ds. Class A's would probably do better. I don't remember what the range difference is. Let's see here. Let's just take a peek. Oh, Coriolis. So 5D collector limpets are 0.78 kilometers. And 5A collectors are, yeah, 1.5. So maybe with 5A collectors it's possible. That'll be my next test. That would absolutely work, Rob. That is still a viable option. Trank, are you busy? Are you on by chance? I feel a bit of testing coming on here. I guess the answer to the poll is 50-50. Yes, I can mine them, I just can't collect them.
Handbrake is on.
Well, I was going to have you telepresence in here and jump in an SRV, and we can test that. I should be able, in a perfect world, to knock things off with the flak cannon, and then you should be able to collect. I'm also curious to see if it lets you keep the material, because I don't know how that works in telepresence. I would assume no, because it doesn't let you keep codex discoveries, but I'm still interested. Whoa. I'm on one for a ride. Down here. It's the only problem with a low gravity planet. Oh, for God's sakes, just target what I want. That's the other thing. I guess this is easier to do a little bit in turret mode. And I don't always remember to do that. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I have no idea where the carriers were either. I was off doing my own thing long before I ran 2/3 of the way across the galaxy last night. Well, that was wild. That was still way up in the air and I collected it. If this does work well, though, that, honestly, with the Caspian, it's got a lot of hard points, and it could have an awful lot of flak rounds on it. So if you are able to keep the materials, this would be a great method of squad mining. One person who doesn't mind doing the jumping could jump out to a site like this, or even brain trees, and then everybody telepresence in, jump in an SRV, and you can stack quite a few SRVs on a Caspian. 20 to be exact. This could be a great way to grind raw mats for squad. Alrighty, I am going to jump in the live on YouTube channel. And I will hang out in there whenever you're ready. If I can remember where it is. There we go. Oh, I didn't hear the bleeps and the creeps. This has to be quite so obtuse. Still isn't. Oh, let's see. Still not working. Ah, there we go. Something about streamer mode was not cooperating. Alright, so we're going to do a little testing here. Hey, hey. Welcome in. I'm in the Delta 1246 group. And the paint on this poor Caspian.
Cargo speed retracted.
The turret view isn't terrible, Rob. I use an Xbox controller, so I do right and left trigger for accelerate, decelerate. Left stick controls the movement of the SRV, and right stick controls the turret, and then bumpers for fire. So it works pretty well most of the time. Trying to remember here. Do I have? I do not. There we go. Alright, let me get you in team here. Or crew, I guess that's what I need. Yeah, exactly, Rob.
How is this crew member connected?
I've beat the hell out of this Caspian. Alright, you want to jump in an SRV and I'll get this rust bucket in the air. I might actually suggest the Scorpion in this case. Well, that's weird. Do you have to be actual crew to launch the... Huh. And you can't fly the ship either, can you? No. This test is going to have to wait, I guess.
No gravity warning.
I mean, we... Yeah, that's unfortunate. I was so hoping that would work. I guess that would have been too easy. It's still easy enough to fly a carrier out to a site, though, and take a group of people that want to do some mining, I guess. Yeah, it was a long shot anyways. Are the rewards posted? I didn't even look.
Telepresence crew member disconnected.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. Well, I guess you can't win them all. I should see what I need antimony for, because if I don't use it for a ton of things, I'm not going to mine a bunch of it up. Well, yeah, that didn't shock me, though. They probably didn't want a bunch of people hopping their personal carriers out there for the CG and crashing everything. Now, I don't see that I need antimony for a whole bunch of stuff. Heavy duty shield booster? I don't think so, Rob. I can look. I don't think I have a shield booster on here at all. I do not, but that's what I would put on an exploration ship. Heavy duty high super cap would be the best for crash protection.
Landing gear retracted.
Yeah, they're not fun to charge. Alrighty, folks. I think that's a good place to take a break for now. We're back in the helium-rich voxel, and when we come back, if we come back this evening, if not, whenever I get the next chance to stream, I'm probably going to squeeze in as much as I can today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, because starting Wednesday, there's a great chance I'll be working 12-hour days again. So we'll see what we can get in, but when we come back, we'll be back on this helium-rich voxel search and see what else we run into. I've already found like 9 crystalline shards in this voxel. That brings my total for helium-rich gas giants up to 7. So who knows? We might find some more interesting stuff. It's not necessarily a guarantee of like a green gas giant in here, but not really any lower chance than anywhere else. So we'll see what we pop into, and I will catch all you guys next time around. Don't forget to hit the like on the way out, and subscribe if you want to see more. We'll catch you later.